What is sleep coaching and how can it help you to overcome your long-term insomnia and sleep problems? In this world of sleep, there are many different practitioners offering services to really help you to make progress or even overcome your sleep problems. But a lot of the times I get asked about, well, what's the difference between a therapist, a counselor, or sleep coach? Some of you might be more familiar with what the difference is, some of you might not be. So let's really talk about what is different when it comes to sleep coaching. So I'm not going to talk about every single different type of practitioner, but I'm going to talk about what I would look for if you're looking for a sleep coach to work with. And again, this will be very much based on my work within my sleep coaching practice, working with clients for the last over 10 years. So I have been around a lot longer than the sort of trend of being a sleep coach um, is, but that's no disrespect in any way for sleep coaches who might be newer and they offer services. So it's absolutely no disrespect in any way, no matter how experienced you may find the sleep coach to be. But I think it's really important to understand how to find someone who actually matches what you need. So the sleep coaching environment is very much a practical environment. Whatever the complexity of your sleep problems are, needs to match the services that you're asking for. So we go into a little bit more details about what I do in my sleep coaching practice and how I feel it can help you to find that right match when it comes to a sleep coach to work with. Now, before we do that, I wanted to welcome you back, as always, if you're part of my community, whether that's on YouTube or my email community. Thank you so much for continuing to learn from me, continuing to engage with my content. And it's really been great to be able to support so many clients over the last 10 years now. So 2024 is my 10th year helping clients and being a sleep coach. So it's a very exciting, in a way, new beginning to reach that milestone. So thanks for being part of that. If you're brand new, then what I would suggest is hit that subscribe button below, hit that little bell so I can let you know when I post new videos. And let me quickly introduce myself so you get a little bit of background of who I am and what I do in my practice. So my name is Beatrix Schmidt, and yes, I am a sleep coach. I'm also a professional speaker, and I'm the creator of the Sleep Skills for Life program, which is very much my way of sharing and teaching people like you uh, all the tools and techniques and the changes that you need to put in place in order to actually really overcome your long-term insomnia and sleep problems. Hence, the title of the program is Sleep Skills for Life. So I help people develop practical skills that will help them to be able to enjoy sleep and good quality sleep for many years to come. So now that we covered that, let's turn attention back to what is being a sleep coach and how it can actually help you. Sleep coaching is becoming more and more trendy, and it's quite interesting to see how the sleep industry changes and evolves as we as a society changes as well. So the background of the sleep coach and my background, therefore, will depend on the level of experience they had. It will also often depend on whether or not they have struggled with sleep problems. So if you haven't yet heard, then I actually struggled with insomnia and overcame it fully before I became a sleep coach. And I think that's very important. So if you're getting in touch with a sleep coach, let's say, and you want to explore working with them, I think it's good to understand whether or not that person has actually experienced sleep problems and whether or not they have overcome their sleep problems. And the reason I think that's important is depending on the complexity of your sleep problem or insomnia, familiarity with the struggles, either through experience, so me experiencing insomnia has definitely given me that understanding, but also it helps the sleep coach to then match their learning, their training to then be able to cater for those problems. So this is how I got into sleep coaching. Is I struggled with insomnia, and most of the general things didn't work for me. It didn't help me to actually overcome my sleep problems, which meant that I had to learn more and more different things, principles, tools, techniques, until I actually overcame and fully overcame my insomnia issues. And I think the reason I feel that's important is if you find a sleep coach and the sleep coach might still be struggling with some sleep problems, that's not necessarily a problem, but that might have a certain limitation of what tools and techniques they might have, or the understanding they might have on how to fully overcome it. And I'm sure it makes sense to you. So once I overcame my insomnia, I actually became incredibly fascinated by how to keep my sleep in a good place. And if you have had ups and downs with your insomnia, you know what I mean. Sometimes you overcome the insomnia, and sometimes you have a bit of a step back. And I have experienced those step backs as well. But then when I continued learning and developing more tools and techniques around those maybe slight step backs I had, I became more knowledgeable about what's impacting positively or negatively and what I can do in order to not let those step backs happen. So when I look at sleep skills, the purpose of the sleep skills often is to prevent further issues in the future. So as a sleep coach, the personal experience you have or they will have with their own sleep is part of their expertise. My expertise comes from partly that, but also partly from my curiosity and continuing to be a student. Sleep is one of those incredibly fascinating topics. Whilst it is frustrating at the time when you're struggling, but once you overcome your sleep problems, it actually becomes incredibly fascinating. I keep learning about my sleep. I keep learning about what influences me positively, negatively, whilst I don't have a step back anymore. But as I experience new things, I experience new levels of optimization when it comes to my sleep. So if you haven't seen some of those videos that I shared with you, going through grief, as an example, has taught me a lot about my sleep. Going through, let's say, moving or international travel has taught me a lot about my own sleep and therefore keeping my sleep in a good place. And these are just some of the examples. So these are different ways a sleep coach's experience can then add to how they can help you. Now, one of the things I've seen with clients over the years is the other part in this is you have to be in a position to be able to work with the person. That's one of the reasons why I don't take on a one-to-one client unless I have actually had a conversation with them, because we're different human beings. Not everyone will work with everyone very well. You would have seen that if you worked in a job when you worked with someone who you don't get along with. Sleep coaching is no different. Whilst it's not about how much you like the sleep coach, it's about being able to work with them and actually appreciating and respecting their knowledge and their expertise and being able to follow it. If the sleep coach guides you and you don't believe what they say, then naturally you're not really going to be putting in place the things that they're asking you to put in place. So as a sleep coach in my practice, I always say to clients, don't make the decision out of desperation. Make the decision out of resonating with what the sleep coach has said through, let's say, a sleep assessment, and actually really understanding the extent of their expertise. Again, over the years, I have had complex sleep situations or on insomnia situations that I helped clients with. Not everybody might have had those experiences. Again, it will depend on the person. But that's really important. You've got to be able to work with the person. But it's not always about being friends. Remember, a sleep coaching environment is a sleep coaching environment. You are in a way a student. So come into the sleep coaching environment with wanting to learn and wanting to take on board that feedback. And sometimes that's another thing that can be sometimes negative in that experience, is a sleep coach's job is to guide you, but also to give you feedback and pinpoint things where you're holding yourself back. And I do that with my clients. I do that in a kind and compassionate way, but it has to be presented. Otherwise, if something is holding you back and we don't address it, then are you going to be able to get to your end results? And so, again, within my practice, I start with whenever I work with a client or I start working with a client, I start with setting a version of a sleep goal, a practical sleep goal or goals or sub goals, so that we know where we're taking you. Just having better sleep is not what the answer is here. Breaking it down to understand, right, which dynamics you would want to work on is what's important. So sleep coaching, again, is a very practical principle in terms of setting that idea of goal and then working towards it and measuring in the process. So again, sleep coaching is very much that practical where you've got to measure whether or not you're getting closer or maybe you're getting further away from where you want to be. And because it's practical, if you put tools and practices in place that for example, as a sleep coach I share with you, then the results track. Sleep is way more practical than most people think. If the root cause of the problem is established and we apply the right tools and techniques, then the results simply follow. And that's how you develop sleep skills for life. So I hope this video has helped you to understand what sleep coaching is and how can it actually help you to overcome your long-term insomnia and sleep problems. Obviously, this is just an introduction. So when I work with clients on a one-to-one basis, it's actually over a number of weeks. I don't do one-off sessions because one-off sessions don't really work. They're often very quick fix mindsets. You've got to work through a practical plan to get you to a great result. One-offs often don't deliver that. So I don't offer one-off sessions for that exact reason. So all of my programs are longer term so that we can really work through a bunch of different things that are either holding you back or not actually helping you to actually have that positive result and overcome the longer term struggle that you had. So if you've got any questions about sort of sleep coaching and any other things I mentioned in this video, feel free to pop a comment below and ask a question or reach out to me separately. If you're interested in working with me, then the best way to do is visit my website, do your research on me. Make sure that you feel like you can work with me as well. That's always a great way. I love when clients actually research me because then we're actually starting on that basis of me not having to spend time introducing myself. And that also gives us that foundation of just working through that sleep assessment, which obviously I offer in my practice, so we can focus on really the sleep problems at the very first step of that process of potentially working together.